For 10 years, I was a peace offering to Alpha Cain, and he chose his adopted sister, Fiona, over me 77 times. He planned my birthday around her tastes. At the Hunter's Moon Festival, she stood beside him in the Luna's ceremonial gown. My gown. Even on our mating night he left me. Fiona faked a panic attack, claiming her wolf was losing control. He spent the night coddling her. I forgave him the first 76 times. Because he'd saved my life once, even if he didn't remember. But when I was kidnapped, he had to choose. Trade the pack's sacred artifact for my life, or stay with Fiona and her latest self-made drama. He chose her. The kidnappers injected me with a lethal dose of wolfsbane. I felt it tearing my wolf apart, devouring my life force from the inside out. The 77th time, I was finally ready to give up. But I was saved. By Drake, Alpha of the Nightfall Pack. The one who'd been watching over me for 15 years. That's when I learned the truth. I'd been thanking the wrong man. The one who saved me was always Drake, never Cain. So I went back. I filed to sever our mate bond with the elders. In 4 days I'll be free, and Cain can be with his precious Fiona forever. So why, now that it's all over, is he on his knees, begging for me back and crying that he always loved me? The 77th time my mate, Alpha Cain, abandoned me for his adopted sister, Fiona, I filed to sever our bond. I was digging at the spiderweb of black veins the wolfsbane had left in my arm when Cain came home. The tip of my tweezers sizzled against raw flesh. He frowned the moment he stepped through the door, his body flinching back a half step. He didn't even try to hide his disgust. He looked at me like I was something filthy, but I could smell her on him. The scent of white moonflower incense that always burned in Fiona's room, clinging to his trench coat. He'd just come from her. Explain, Drake, he said from the doorway, his voice clipped with impatience. Why would he save you? I didn't look up. I fought back the burn in my throat, and kept cleaning the wound. Yesterday, I was kidnapped by a pack of masked wolves. They shot me up with wolfsbane, tortured me, left me for dead. The kidnappers told Cain to bring the pack's sacred relic to save me. But he never came. Fiona had a mental breakdown, so he chose her instead. We've been mated for 10 years. This was the 77th time he'd abandoned me for her. And now, after I escaped on my own, he wasn't asking if I was okay. He was interrogating me about the Alpha who saved my life. His eyes landed on my mangled arm, and the hard line of his jaw softened, just a little. He crossed the room to my side. Look, I know you're in pain. I told the kidnappers I was coming for you. I had to delay an hour. Fiona's mind was shattering. You're my mate, Alara. Of course I was coming for you. He glanced at my arm. Damn it. I warned them not to touch a single hair on your head. How dare they? He looked so furious now, as if my pain actually bothered him. He reached out, his hand aiming for my cheek in a hollow gesture of comfort. Just then his communicator buzzed in his pocket. It was just a soft hum, but his hand froze in midair. He answered. The mask of the loving mate he'd worn for me shattered, replaced by raw panic. What? Still crying? Hyperventilating? Don't worry. Tell Fiona I'm on my way. Right now. He hung up. Without another glance at my bleeding arm, he turned to leave. Where are you going? I asked, though I already knew. My voice was ice. Fiona had a nightmare, he said, tugging his collar straight. His tone was dismissive. She dreamt that you died and she can't breathe. The healers say she's unstable. I have to be there. Alara, you're a healer yourself. It's just a scratch. Patch yourself up and stop being so dramatic. Dramatic? Me almost dying was dramatic. Fiona having a bad dream was a crisis. The door slammed shut. This time I didn't cry. I didn't even feel the ache in my chest. I was just numb. I bandaged my arm, pulled on a long-sleeved robe to hide the wound, and walked straight to the Elder's Hall. If he wouldn't give me respect, I would take back my freedom. Inside the hall, the 5 elders sat on their high stone chairs, looking down at me. You want what? To sever the mate bond. The head elder scoffed as if I'd told a joke. Alara, what is this nonsense? It's not nonsense. I stood straight. Cain abandoned me when my life was on the line. He broke the mate's vow. I have the right to request a severance. Abandonment? Cain acted for the greater good. Another elder snapped. Fiona's power was spiraling out of control. If he hadn't contained her, she could have leveled half our territory. He was protecting the pack. By sacrificing his Luna? I shot back. Watch your place. The head elder slammed his staff on the floor. Alara, do not forget your place. You are a treaty bride, a living sacrifice. Your purpose is to secure this alliance, not throw a tantrum over petty jealousy. As long as Cain doesn't publicly reject you, you will always be his Luna. An alpha's favor is a privilege, not a right. Go home. Don't let us hear this foolishness again, or we will make sure your birth pack hears of this humiliation. I was escorted out of the hall. Standing on the steps, I looked up at the almost full moon and felt a chill cut straight through me. To them I was just a thing, an object used to secure a treaty. Not Cain, not the elders. No one had ever seen me as a wolf with dignity. If they wouldn't grant me justice, I would have to claim it myself. Back in my room, I pulled a battered, ancient book from a hidden compartment under the bed. I remembered seeing a passage when I was restoring it. A ritual for a blood severance. It was a brutal, forbidden magic. A ritual to unilaterally sever a bond that had been corrupted. On the night of the blood moon, take the blood of the betrayer. With your own spirit as the key, you can defy fate and break the pact. The blood moon was in 4 days. It was when our power as wolves would be at its peak. The perfect time. As for Cain's blood, I'd find a way. This was my only way out. My only path to freedom. I stroked the rough pages, but my mind drifted back to yesterday. To that blood-soaked, abandoned warehouse. I was fading in and out, but I remembered the warmth of Derek's arms. I remembered his eyes. And now, thinking back, I realized they were achingly familiar. Don't be afraid. I'm taking you home. The memory hit me all at once. Derek saving me. For a decade, I thought that boy was Cain. Because Cain let me believe it. Because I thought the jagged scar across his chest was a wound he'd taken for me. Even when he grew cold, when he ignored me, when he betrayed me again and again, I endured it. I owed him my life, I told myself. But yesterday I finally understood. My devotion. My gratitude. My entire life. It was all a fucking joke. I had thanked the wrong man. I had loved the wrong man. I had wasted 10 years of my youth and my dignity on a lie. The one who saved me, who had always been there, was Drake. Cain was nothing but a pathetic thief who stole another wolf's glory. I pulled out the microcom Drake had given me. My fingers trembled as I typed a single line. For days. Blood moon. Get me out of here. The reply was instant. You better be sure about this, Alara. Because I'm not helping you this time. A beat of silence. Then the next message pinged. Through. I'm taking you. I've waited 10 years for this. You're not getting away from me again. When my pack first decided to offer me to Cain, Drake had come to me. He said if I didn't want to go, he'd take me away, right then and there. But I was fixated on repaying the wrong man for saving my life. I never imagined this would be the outcome of our mating. And Drake. An alpha every bit as powerful. All the years I'd wasted on a lie, watching my back in silence. Now I was taking what little I had and getting out. All I needed first was Cain's blood. I was packing my things when I heard his familiar footsteps. Cain pushed the door open. He frowned, seeing the books and bags scattered on the floor. What are you doing? Packing. I didn't look up, just kept putting my ancient texts into a crate. Mating with Cain, the only thing I hadn't given up was preserving the last remnants of our ancient lore. These books were all I had. They were all I cared about. As I handled the most damaged book, a piece of parchment fell out. Scrawled on it in the old wolf tongue were a few lines. Blood of the moon is not always weak. Power of the mind is not for omegas alone when the moon queen returns. I gave a bitter smile, dismissing it as some silly myth, and tucked it back into the book. Packing for what? We have a celebration gala tomorrow, he said, his tone impatient. Stop this tantrum. I know you're still shaken up about the kidnapping, but I have more important things to deal with. Your duty as my Luna is to ensure stability, not cause more problems for me. A tantrum? More problems? He had dismissed my near-death experience as me being childish. I finally looked up at him. 10 years, and he'd never once tried to understand me. I'm not throwing a tantrum. Then what is this? Running away from home? He scoffed. Alara, your duty is to be my Luna. I'll let the thing with Drake slide. We'll just forget about it. The matter is closed. Just then soft footsteps approached. Kane. Fiona appeared at the door, dressed in a white silk nightgown, looking fragile and lovely. I heard voices. Alara, are you okay? Her eyes scanned my room and landed on my moonpetal charm, a crystal sphere containing the petals of the rare flower. It was the only thing that helped soothe the volatile power inside me. The moment Fiona got close to the table, her power brushed against mine, a cold, predatory probe that made the power inside me stir uneasily. Oh, Fiona suddenly stumbled, her elbow accidentally knocking the table. The crystal sphere crashed to the floor. The moon petals instantly turned to dust. I'm so sorry, she apologized, but a flash of triumph crossed her eyes. She leaned in, her voice a rapid whisper only I could hear. Don't blame me, Alara. It was Kane. He said your things were upsetting my balance. He told me to get rid of it. I stared at the shattered pieces. That was my last moon petal. It was extinct in the wild. Without it, the power inside me would be even more unstable. But this time, there was none of the usual pain in my chest. My eyes locked on a piece of the wreckage. A shard of crystal, razor sharp at the edge. Wasn't this the perfect tool to draw his blood? It's fine. I knelt, pretending to clean up the shards. The second Kane turned to check on Fiona's hand. I snatched the sharpest piece. I clenched it in my fist and slid it into a hidden pocket in my sleeve. The sharp edge dug into my palm. The sting of it made me feel terrifyingly awake. With this, I could get his blood. Alara, leave it, Kane ordered, turning to Fiona. Are you hurt? I cut my hand a little, Fiona said pitifully, holding out a finger with a nearly invisible scratch. Kane immediately took her hand, inspecting it. I'll take you to get that cleaned. It's okay, Kane, Fiona smiled sweetly, then turned to me with perfect apology. Alara, I'm so sorry, I'm just so clumsy. As she spoke, she swayed slightly, as if dizzy. I instinctively reached out to steady her. The second our skin touched, her silk nightgown conveniently slipped, revealing her pale collarbone. There, on her collarbone, was a dark red crescent mark, glowing faintly. A mark? I froze. My bond with Kane was still intact. I could feel that they hadn't actually mated. But this mark pretty, isn't it? Fiona noticed me staring. She stroked the mark, her voice a smug whisper in my head through the mind link. Kane, he gave it to me last night. I smelled a strange herbal scent. Phantom leaf. The sap, applied with an alpha's calming energy, stains the skin to look like a claiming mark. It's used to soothe hysterical patients. But to put it there on her collarbone, shaped so intimately it was obvious Kane had indulged her. You just painted that on with phantom leaf, I said, my voice flat, cutting through her act. Fiona, you drain your own energy for a stunt like this, just to show off to me? So much for being fragile. Fiona stiffened, then leaned close to my ear. Her whisper was pure venom. So what if it's fake? The whole pack will see it and think it's real. As long as Kane doesn't correct them, it is real. He said he doesn't mind teaching you a lesson, as long as it keeps me calm. Then she turned back to Kane, her expression all innocence. Oh, by the way, I saw how much sun Alara's sunroom gets. My flowers haven't been doing so well lately. I was wondering if... Of course, Kane agreed without a second thought. Alara, give the sunroom to Fiona. The sunroom was my only sanctuary. It was where I studied my books, grew my herbs, and spent countless lonely afternoons. That's my room. It's Fiona's now. Kane's tone was final. Her recovery demands it. So does mine, I said, standing up. A shard of glass sliced my palm, and blood dripped, staining the floor. Those herbs are for stabilizing my own power. What power? You have no power. Kane scoffed. The wolfsbane shattered your healing. Whatever you think, you need it. Can wait. I stared at his entitled face, the last bit of warmth in my heart turning to ice. Right. This was him. For 10 years, my needs could always wait. Fiona chimed in. Alara, if you don't want to, no. I wiped the blood from my hand. Take it. I don't need it anymore anyway. Oh, and by the way, Kane said suddenly, you will attend the gala tomorrow night. We just closed a major deal. We need to project an image of pack unity. I'm not going. You will go. A dangerous glint flashed in his eyes. That's an order, Alara. I looked at the two of them. Kane domineering and cold. Fiona, a master manipulator behind an innocent mask. This was my life. A decade of humiliation. I understand, I said, turning back to my packing. Fiona snuggled into Kane's arms, her slender fingers tracing circles on his chest. She looked at me with triumph, her voice sickly sweet. You don't mind, do you, Alara? Kane just wants to keep me happy. After all, she paused, her eyes dripping venom. I'm the one who matters. I closed my eyes, ignoring her. For more days, and this would all be over. Then Kane could be with his beloved Fiona. Forever. Everyone, tonight I'd like to introduce two very important women. Kane stood in the center of the gala, his suit perfect, his smile flawless. All eyes were on him. I stood in a dark corner, wearing the black evening gown he'd commanded me to wear. It exposed the dark, web-like veins the wolfsbane had left on my arms, a mark of shame. First. This is Fiona, Kane said, pulling her to his side. The sister I've sworn to protect, my treasure, my pride. Fiona finished for him, lowering her head shyly. Tonight, she was wearing my white gown. Yes, the one I had planned to wear. Thunderous applause. I saw the tenderness in Kane's eyes, a light I had never seen before. In 10 years, he had never looked at me that way. And this, his voice turned cold formal, is Alara, my associate, and our pack's head healer. The word hung in the air, a public demotion, a slap in the face. The applause died. I managed a smile and raised my glass to everyone. All the while, the shard of crystal in my sleeve pressed cold and hard against my wrist. I was waiting for my chance. An opening to get close to Kane, to cut him when his guard was down and take the blood I needed. But Fiona was glued to him like a second skin. And with guests and guards everywhere, I couldn't get near him. Just then, a wave of agony exploded from my chest. The wolfsbane was acting up again. But this time, something else came with the pain. A strange, violent power was crashing through me. I nearly fell. The glass slipped from my hand, spilling red wine across the floor. Alara, someone asked. I'm fine, I gritted out, stumbling toward the garden. I just need some air. No one followed me. Not even Kane. I shoved the garden doors open. The cold air hit me, but it was nothing compared to the ice in my heart. The strange power roiled in my veins like a thousand knives carving me up from the inside. I gripped the railing, gasping for breath. Go. I have to get out of here. I turned to leave, only to slam into an invisible barrier. What? I reached out. The air shimmered with a faint light. In that instant, the impact of the collision flipped a dusty switch inside me. I didn't just feel the barrier, I could clearly see it. In my mind's eye, the barrier was a complex web woven from threads of malicious, shimmering energy. This was a mental barrier? Surprised, Fiona's voice came from behind me. I turned to see her gliding toward me. The same sweet smile from the gala on her face. You. Of course me. She stopped in front of me, her smile turning cruel. Did you really think all I could do was play the victim? You, I stared at her in shock. You're not a normal Omega. Finally figured it out? Fiona circled me like a predator sizing up its prey. I'm a psychic class Omega, one of the rarest breeds. And you? She raked her eyes over me. You're just a broken down healer. She stopped in front of me, her eyes filled with venom. Do you know why Kane chooses me? Because I can give him everything he wants. Power, status, and a mate who can resonate with him on a psychic level. And you? Kane is sick and tired of your gloomy, pathetic act. He said your very existence is a chain on his freedom. He needs a queen who can rule by his side, not a burden he has to look after. She looked me up and down, her gaze like a razor across. The scars on my arm. You're a defective prize, damaged goods. What can you even do for him anymore? Have his pups? She sneered. A broken wolf like you could never produce strong pups. You'd only give him defects. Fiona's taunt was pure venom. Cain can't wait for you to disappear. Then I can finally take my place as the true Luna. The mate bond was tearing me apart, and I still hadn't found a chance to get Cain's blood. It wasn't going to happen tonight. I had to endure. Wait for another opening. My silence only made Fiona's smile widen. Look at you. You've been out here in agony all night, while he's inside, dancing with me. Stay here tonight. The gala ended. The guests left. I was still in the garden. The barrier didn't fall until midnight. By then, the agony had already made me black out. For some reason, the mate bond was unraveling faster than ever that night, the strain threatening to swallow me whole. The entire pack was silent. No one had come for me. The next morning, the patrol team found me. Luna? Why did you sleep in the garden all night? A young guard asked with concern. I didn't answer. I walked straight to my rooms. The moment I pushed open the door, I froze. Fiona was sitting at my vanity, wearing the white dress I was supposed to have worn last night. The dress was now rumpled and disheveled, clearly having been handled roughly. She saw me and gave a sultry smile. Elara, you're back? She deliberately adjusted her collar, revealing a fresh red mark on her neck. Sorry about the mess. Things got a little intense last night. I ruined your dress. The air was thick with Cain's scent. Dominant, hot, possessive. You too, in your bed, Fiona purred, standing up and walking toward me. Cain said since you were being so difficult he needed a real Luna to handle his needs. She leaned close to my ear, her voice a low hiss only I could hear. He told me when he's with you he closes his eyes and pretends it's me. Not you. Never you. He said I was a better fit to be his Luna, a better fit to bear his children. He also said, she paused, her eyes malicious. What right does a half-breed with a shattered bloodline have to be Luna? You can't even give him a healthy heir anymore. My hands began to shake. Not from pain. From rage. 10 years of humiliation. 77 betrayals. Last night's public shaming. It all exploded in this one moment. Are you done? I looked up, something burning in my eyes. Fiona seemed to sense the danger, and took a step back. What are you doing? I'm going to teach you your place. I raised my hand. An invisible force, my rage, my pain, my humiliation given form, slammed into her, throwing her across the room. I stared at my own hand, shocked by the raw power that had answered my call, but beneath the shock, I felt an incredible sense of release, as if I'd finally broken free from my chains. The door was thrown open. Cain stormed in. When he saw Fiona on the ground and felt the unfamiliar energy radiating from me, his face twisted into a snarl. What have you done? His voice was a low growl, laced with a fear he couldn't hide. It wasn't concern for Fiona. It was the shock of seeing a power in me he couldn't control. Fiona lay weakly on the floor, a trickle of blood at the corner of her mouth. She looked tragic, if you ignored the flicker of triumph in her eyes. Cain, she whispered, tears instantly welling up. Elara, she used some strange power on me. I didn't. Shut up. Cain's roar made the glass in the room vibrate. He knelt to check on Fiona, his movements as gentle as if she were made of spun glass. Where does it hurt? My chest and my head, Fiona pointed weakly, her voice a mosquito's buzz. I just wanted to apologize to Elara for dancing with you last night, but she's jealous of me, Fiona said, as if it took all her strength. She looked at me, her eyes full of provocation. She's jealous of us last night. She said she wanted to destroy me. Enough. Cain stood, his alpha's dominance flooding the room. He looked at me, wary of this unknown power. You think I can't see it? The traces of a mental assault are all over her. Were you trying to kill her? Kill her? I looked at Fiona, the Oscar-worthy actress on the floor, and I wanted to laugh. Her injuries looked dramatic, but I knew it was just minor backlash from my own power. With the kind of strength she'd used to create that mental barrier last night, this little push wouldn't have hurt her at all. Her performance was flawless. Cain, don't blame Elara, Fiona struggled, to sit up, her face pale as paper. She's probably just in a lot of pain, the after effects of the wolfsbane, such a kind sister. Such a perfect victim. No. Kane's eyes burned with a cold fire. He couldn't tolerate it. His property now possessed a power beyond his comprehension and control. It made him feel threatened. This was a deliberate attack. As Alpha, I will not tolerate it. He turned to me, his voice pure ice. I, Alpha Kane, hereby declare Alara's power unstable. She is a danger to this pack. Lock her in the silent prison, effective immediately. No one is to go near her until I discover the source of this power. The silent prison. The pack's deepest, darkest dungeon, reserved for traitors and mad wolves. Hearing the sentence, I didn't panic. Not like Kane expected. Instead, a flicker of relief went through me. The silent prison. It was the most isolated, secure place in the entire territory. No Fiona. No distractions. Just me and my interrogator. If Kane came to question me himself, that would be my chance to strike. Guards swarmed in, clamping silver shackles around my wrists and ankles. I held out my hands and let them take me, but the shard of crystal from my sleeve was tucked safely against my skin. As they dragged me from the room, I heard Fiona's weak voice. Kane, the fireworks display tonight, can I still go? Of course, Kane said gently, to celebrate our success. The fireworks will be especially grand tonight. Anything for you. A fireworks display? As I was hauled away, I saw servants setting up massive firework launchers. The whole pack was busy preparing for a celebration, while I was being thrown in a dungeon. Luna, a young guard, whispered to me. The Alpha announced tonight's celebration for the new human corporate partnership. Miss Fiona specifically requested the most spectacular fireworks. He's prepared a 3-hour show just for her. 3 hours of fireworks. For her. On the day I was imprisoned, the silent cells were 3 levels underground. Damp, cold, and pitch black. Ancient runes were carved into the walls, designed to suppress a werewolf's power. I was thrown into the deepest cell, my shackles chained to the wall. You have a visitor, a guard said before leaving. A stooped figure entered. It was Balthus, the pack's old physician. Alara, pain flashed in his eyes when he saw me. Child, how did it come to this? After effects of the wolfsbane, I said flatly, leaning against the wall. What are you doing here? Kane sent me to check on you, Balthus said, taking out his medical kit. He said your power is unstable. Unstable power. That was his diagnosis for me. Balthus began his examination, but his expression quickly changed. First confusion, then shock, and finally terror. Impossible, his hands trembled as he stared at the readings. The diagnostic tool shrieked, the needle flying wildly off the charts. What's impossible? Moon Goddess preserve us, he looked up at me, his eyes wide with a terrifying awe. Moon Goddess, your bloodline, this power, you were never an Omega. You are something else. Something more. After the examination, Balthus said nothing else. He snatched the report, his face a grim, almost fanatical mask, and rushed out. I knew where he was going. He was going to present his astonishing findings directly to Kane. And Kane would be coming for me very soon. I touched the sharp shard I'd hidden in my sleeve. Outside, huge fireworks exploded. Good Kane. This whole sky full of fireworks, I'll just call it an early funeral for our bond. There's no concept of time in the silent prison. But I know I've been locked in here for 2 days. Tonight is the blood moon. I can feel it. My blood is starting to boil, the sign of my bloodline awakening. Suddenly, the cell door swings open. Alara. Kane's voice. I finally lifted my head. He stood in the doorway. There were faint shadows under his eyes. He looked tired, and his gaze held a frustration and confusion I'd never seen before. He walked in and got straight to the point, his voice laced with pressure. Balthus's report makes no sense. Alara, who are you? What secrets have you been hiding from me? This was it. The chance I'd been waiting for. To finally take his blood. I sagged against the damp wall, letting my breath hitch in my throat, playing the part of the exhausted prisoner. Who am I? I'm just the useless thing you called me, right? Don't play games with me. Kane snarled, stalking forward to grip the iron bars. Admit you were wrong. Tell me the secret of this power, and I'll let you out. You want to know? I looked up, my eyes hazy with feigned weakness, and crooked a finger at him. Come closer, I whispered, a ghost of a smile on my lips. And I'll tell you. Kane's eyes narrowed with suspicion, but greed won the battle. He unlocked the door, strode in, and yanked me to my feet by my collar. Talk, now. My hand shot from the shadows. The razor-sharp crystal shard I'd hidden for 2 days sliced across the back of his hand. Kane roared in pain, recoiling instantly. A cut, deep enough to show bone, gaped open. Rich red alpha blood welled up. You bitch, he bellowed, raising his hand to strike me. I didn't flinch. I lunged, my own bloody hand clamping down on his bleeding one. Our blood mingled in the air. At that exact moment, a spectral crimson light bled through the high air vent. The blood moon had risen. By this blood, I bind you. By my soul I sever. I chanted the ancient words, my eyes locked on his terrified ones. Every debt is paid. Every bond is broken. Now and forever, we are nothing. What are you doing? He felt it now, the terrifying pull of the ritual. He tried to yank his hand free, but my grip was iron. The red light flooded the cell, turning it into a blood-red chamber. Arg! Agony. A soul-deep agony ripped through us both at the same time. This wasn't the pain of torn flesh. It was the feeling of a living connection being violently shredded at its very root. Break! I screamed, pouring every last ounce of my will into that single word. Crack! A sound like shattering glass echoed in our souls. In that instant, Kane choked on a mouthful of blood. He collapsed to his knees, clutching his heart, his face ashen with shock. The mate bond that had chained me to him was gone. Utterly and completely destroyed. You, what have you done? Kane stared at me in horror, as if I were the monster. I gave you back to her, Kane. I wiped the blood from my lips and stood tall. My body was screaming in protest, but for the first time in 10 years, my soul felt light. Boom. A massive explosion blew the far wall of the prison wide open. Through the settling dust and smoke, a tall, imposing figure strode in, silhouetted by the blood moon. His golden eyes burned with a desperate fury. Drake. He kicked Kane's kneeling form aside like he was trash and caught me in his arms as my legs gave out. I'm late, he rasped, his voice thick with a fury I knew was born from terror. No. You're right on time. I sagged against his solid chest. I held up my bloody hand and looked down at Kane, who was gasping on the floor. A smile of pure, unadulterated relief spread across my face. Take me away, Drake. I'm free. Kane's POV. Drake vanished with Alara through the gaping hole he'd blasted in my dungeon. I was on my knees, gasping, my hand clawing at my chest. It was empty. The bond that had been a constant hum beneath my skin for 10 years, a connection that held fast no matter how much I ignored it, was now just a bleeding, twitching void. Every breath was a fresh stab of agony, as if my very soul had been torn in half. But worse than the pain was the rage. The sheer, blinding humiliation. How dare he? How dare Drake storm my territory, blast open my prison, and steal my mate from right under my nose? And her Alara, my quiet, obedient Luna who always did as she was told. How dare she look at me like I was nothing? How dare she sever our sacred bond with her own 2 hands? Alpha, the guards who had rushed in were trembling, staring at the wreckage and my ruined state. After them. I surged to my feet, grabbing the nearest guard by the collar. My eyes were burning red as I roared. Lock down the borders. I want them hunted. I want them back. My alpha command was a physical force, shaking the very stones around us. But I knew. Drake had planned this. It was already too late. This wasn't the ache of losing a mate. This was the ultimate insult. I, Alpha Kane, had my property publicly stolen by a rival alpha. I stormed back to my rooms. As I expected, the place felt hollow. Her scent, that cool, gentle presence that used to fill the space, was gone. Good. Fine. I laughed, a raw, ugly sound. I roared and swept the delicate trinkets Fiona had littered across my desk to the floor, shattering them. In my mind, her little severance ritual was a joke. A pathetic, childish tantrum. A cheap trick, using another man to finally get my attention. She thought she could escape me? How naive. She would learn that what belongs to an alpha always belongs to him. My eyes swept the room, landing on the diary she'd left in the corner. With the dismissive air of a king glancing at a peasant's petition, I picked it up, expecting to find the pathetic ramblings of a scorned female. I flipped open a random page. The 45th time. How much longer can I take this? I flipped again. The 77th time. I'm tired. A cold, mocking smile touched my lips. A peace offering, meant to secure an alliance, wasting her time on these pathetic feelings instead of doing her duty. How stupid. She never understood her place. I carelessly flipped toward the back, until a hastily scrawled entry stabbed me like a poisoned blade. Today I finally understand. I only loved him because I mistook him for the one who saved me. The one who saved me as a boy was Drake all along. The condescending smirk on my face vanished. Ever since she was mated to me, she'd hinted that I was her savior. I didn't remember it, but I'd let myself believe it was true. No matter what I did, I knew she'd stay by my side, for whatever reason. But now she was saying the life debt belonged to Drake? How was that possible? That debt was the last chain I thought I had on her. And now that chain was a fake. No. I shot to my feet, pacing the room, a frantic energy seizing me. I scrambled for a reason. I have to get her back, I snarled to the empty room. She's a symbol of my power, the linchpin of the alliance. Letting her go makes me look weak. I quickly repackaged my panic and fear of losing control into a noble, righteous cause. For the good of the pack. I snatched the report Balthus had given me about her abnormal bloodline, and stormed toward the shaman's temple. I needed a better reason. A sacred reason why she had to be brought back. In the temple, the elderly pack shaman was meditating before the moon stone. Shaman, I need you to look at this. I thrust the report at him. What is wrong with Alara's bloodline? The old shaman's cloudy eyes lit up with a shocking brilliance the moment he saw the data. His withered hands began to tremble violently, almost dropping the thin paper. By the moon goddess, this isn't an abnormality. The shaman's voice was sharp with excitement. This is a miracle. The prophecy is coming true. What prophecy? My heart was in my throat. The king's ascension. The shaman staggered to his feet, staring at me with feverish intensity. The legends say that when the daughter of the moon with the high bloodline appears, she will be able to form a soul resonance with the strongest alpha in the world. Her bloodline's power can help that alpha break his limits, surpass all his ancestors, and unite all warring packs under a single banner. The prophesied Wolf King. Boom. My mind went blank. I couldn't hear another word the shaman said. Unite all wolf packs. She wasn't just a disposable peace offering. She was the key to my ultimate ascent to power. She is mine. The panic and anger in my eyes burned away, replaced by something hotter, more insane, a wild obsession. I walked out of the shaman's temple. The night wind hit my face, but it couldn't cool my boiling blood. The mate bond was broken. So what? As long as she's still breathing, I'll find a way to chain her to my side again. I looked at my second in command, who had already assembled. My voice was pure ice. Relay my orders. Mobilize every elite warrior. Spare no cost. If it means war, so be it. Find her. And bring me back my queen. Alara's POV, meanwhile, in the territory of the Nightfall Pack. Welcome home, Alara. Drake's voice was thick with emotion as he led me toward the towering, ancient castle. This is where you were always meant to be. I stared at the moonlit fortress, my feelings a complicated mix. Drake, I didn't come here to seek refuge. I know. He turned, his dark eyes shining in the night. You came here to be reborn. He said no more. He simply took off his jacket and unbuttoned his shirt. What are you doing? The shirt fell away, revealing a hard, lean chest. Right over his heart, a gnarled, ugly scar stood out in stark relief, as if he'd been torn open by the claws of a beast. Even healed, it was easy to imagine how brutal the original wound was. This is the price, Drake, said his voice raw, for saving you. I nearly bled out on that forest floor for you. The memory fragments snapped into place. The back of the boy who had shielded me, his desperate shout to run. The blood that had poured from his chest as he fell, even though I already knew he was my true savior, my eyes filled with tears. Why didn't you tell me? I choked out. Because I saw the way you looked at him. And I couldn't use a debt to chain you when your heart was already his. Drake rebuttoned his shirt, covering the scar and 15 years of pain. So I waited. And I watched him break your heart 77 times. A raw agony finally cracking his composure. Alara. No more. The castle doors swung open, and an elegant, silver-haired woman emerged. Her eyes were wise and kind, as if she could see right through you. Mother, Drake said. This is Alara. I know who she is. Drake's mother, the old Luna of the Nightfall Pack, walked toward me and studied me closely. Heir to the blood of the moon goddess. Welcome home, child. She took my hand. A warm energy instantly enveloped me. A few seconds later, she opened her eyes, her expression one of pure shock. Incredible, your bloodline is so pure. Child, you were never an Omega. You are a queen, born of the moon itself. I had felt the shift in my power, but I was still confused. She smiled and explained. Your bloodline appears to have been sealed. The wolfsbane helped you break through that seal. My world was turned upside down. Under the old Luna's guidance, I began to learn how to control the strange new power within me. It wasn't just healing. It was the ancient, formidable power of the moon goddess herself. It could destroy and create. It could rule and protect. What else can this power do besides fight? I asked. The elder Luna looked at me with pride. It allows you to feel the suffering of all your people, and to grant them peace. Child, you were born to be a guardian, not a sacrifice. Her words were a ray of light, illuminating the darkness of the past 10 years. I could feel myself changing, not just in power, but in spirit. The elder Luna smiled, gathering the pack elders. The final ritual to control the bloodline, I will help you. Just then, a shrill alarm shattered the peace of the territory. Drake rushed in, his face a grim mask. He's here. Cain has brought his army. They're surrounding our border. I wasn't surprised. I stood up calmly and walked to the castle's highest parapet. On the distant ridge, a black mass of Cain's warriors stood, armed and ready for war. He stood at their head. Even from this distance, I could feel his suffocating, absolute possessiveness. I didn't let Drake meet his army. Instead, I stood alone on the battlements, facing him. The cold wind whipped my hair, and carried his voice to me. Alara. His voice was an alpha's command, meant to shatter will and force submission. This childish game is over. You are mine. Come back now. He wouldn't even admit I left because of him. He was still framing it as me being childish. I laughed, and the wind carried my voice back to him, clear as a bell. Cain, for 10 years, you never once asked me what I wanted. So I'll tell you now. I want to be free. My answer clearly enraged him. Free. His voice turned lethal. What lies has that bastard been feeding you? You are my Luna. You belong to me. Belong to you? The smile on my lips grew colder. I looked down on him as if he were a stranger throwing a tantrum. The mate bond is broken. From now on, I belong to myself. My words were the final spark that lit the fires of war. Cain was utterly infuriated. He drew his sword and pointed it forward, letting out a deafening roar. Attack. Bring me back my Luna. The next second, the air was filled with war cries as hundreds of warriors charged toward the castle like a black tide. The blood moon had set, but for me, a new cycle was just beginning. As the last heir of the moon goddess, this was the most critical moment of my existence. I needed to stabilize my power, to finally merge my soul with the magic in my blood. I descended from the watchtower, and made my way to the moon goddess altar in the heart of the castle. This was the Dark Knight Pack's most sacred ground. It was also the perfect place for me to claim the power that was my birthright. Drake was already waiting, flanked by the Dark Knight Pack's most elite warriors. Are you ready? He asked, his golden eyes filled with a worry he couldn't hide. I'm ready. I stepped onto the altar, a single massive slab of polished moonstone. My white ritual robe shimmered in the pure moonlight streaming down from the crystal dome above. It was time for my coronation. For my new life. Drake's mother stood below the altar. Her voice, low and steady, began the ancient chant, a thread of sound guiding my soul toward the raging power within. The light from the altar intensified, growing from a soft glow to a blinding brilliance. I could feel it. The sleeping power of the moon goddess was waking, becoming one with me faster than I ever thought possible. Outside the castle walls, Cain's roar of fury tore through the night. Drake, give me back what is mine, or I will burn this pack to the ground. Try me, Drake sneered, his own voice a low growl. He gave a sharp command to the warriors behind him. Protect the altar. No one gets through. The two packs collided in a maelstrom of fur and steel. Klosch met shields. Blood sprayed across the ancient stones. I closed my eyes, shutting out the chaos. I focused everything on welcoming the immense, beautiful power. Ilera. A raw, desperate scream shattered my concentration. Cain had shattered the line of defense. He stood at the edge of the altar, drenched in blood, some his, some not. He looked at me, bathed in the holy light. A vicious glint of ambition flashed in his eyes before his face crumpled into a mask of pain and regret. Please, stop, he shrieked. The once powerful alpha now as pathetic as a beggar on his knees. Don't take it all. That power will consume you. Come back to me. We can start over. He scrabbled toward the altar, only to be violently thrown back by the sacred barrier. I opened my eyes and watched his pathetic performance, my own gaze as cold as ice. He wasn't afraid the power would devour me. He was terrified it would make me stronger than him, that I would finally be beyond his control. It's too late. My voice was a cold whisper on the moonlight. Cain, you never wanted me. You only wanted a weapon you could wield. I'll send Fiona away. I'll do anything. He was still performing, his voice thick with crocodile tears. Ilera, I love you, I really truly love you, love? What a cheap, worthless word coming from him. I looked at him and felt nothing but a vast, empty cold. You don't love me, I said, each word a shard of ice, tearing away his final, pathetic disguise. You love the prophecy that says I can make you a king. Cain's face froze, the lie dying on his lips. Just then a piercing, manic laugh echoed from the sky. Ha 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 ha. At last. The moon goddess bloodline, merging on the night of the new moon. The perfect sacrifice. Countless shadows descended from the sky, and a familiar, cloying scent filled the air. The kidnappers. Their target was obvious, me. Right here, in the middle of the altar, at the most vulnerable moment of my ascension. The courtyard erupted into a bloodbath. Drake roared, shifting into his massive black wolf form. In a stunning, desperate move, he and Cain fought back to back, a temporary alliance against a common enemy. Even Cain had dropped his act. He knew that if I was taken, his ambitions would turn to dust. A man in black broke through their line. He held a poisoned silver dagger, and he lunged straight for my heart. No, Drake bellowed. He threw himself in front of me, his body a living shield. The silver knife sank to the hilt in his chest. A crimson flower of blood blossomed against his black fur. Drake. He collapsed, the silver poison draining his life force in seconds. Keep going, he forced the words out, his golden eyes pleading with me. Don't stop, rage. A rage I had never known, a righteous cosmic fury, exploded inside me like a supernova. This man. He was dying for me. Again. And these greedy, pathetic hyenas dared to think they could use me as a tool. Enough. My eyes snapped open, and pure, silver light exploded from my pupils. The power of the moon goddess was mine. Completely. I rose slowly from the altar, levitating inches above the stone. Behind me, a vast spectral form took shape, the ethereal projection of the ancient moon goddess herself. Cain stared, his greed finally giving way to pure, primal terror. He was finally seeing it. The offering he had tossed aside and trampled on was now a goddess he could only kneel before. You dared to touch what is mine. My voice was no longer my own. It was a chorus of ancient power, ethereal yet absolute, thrumming with divine wrath. Now you will all die. My feet left the ground. Silver light exploded from my body, turning the night sky as bright as day. I floated above the altar, the phantom of the moon goddess growing clearer behind me. My eyes were pure silver. No pupils, just endless starlight. You want my bloodline? My voice echoed through the valley, heavy with divine authority. Then come and take it. I lifted my right hand and waved it casually. A wave of silver energy swept across the battlefield. Every member of the shadow cult disintegrated into ash, their screams swallowed by the light. Hundreds of enemies gone in an instant. Complete silence. Everyone stared at me, floating in the air, their eyes filled with awe and terror. This was the true power of the moon bloodline. Not healing. Absolute dominion. I slowly descended, walking toward the dying Drake. Silver light poured from my palms, enveloping his body. This wasn't healing. It was resurrection. The wound on Drake's chest closed at a visible rate. The silver poison was purged. Even the old scar on his chest vanished completely. He opened his eyes and looked at me, his gaze filled with shock and a deep, abiding love. Ilara Drake. I offered him my hand. Choose me, as I have always only chosen you. He didn't hesitate. He took my hand. The light of the blood moon shone down on us, and an ancient, sacred power linked us together. This wasn't a normal mating mark. It was a divine union, blessed by the goddess herself. Identical silver marks appeared over our hearts, a symbol of our eternal bond. No, Cain's voice, full of despair, drifted from the distance. He was on his knees, watching us complete the sacred rite. The once proud alpha could now only look up at me in humble awe. Ilara, he whispered, his voice trembling. You've changed. Yes, I had. I was no longer the meek Omega. No longer the woman who was grateful for the smallest scrap of warmth. I was the Moon Queen, a born ruler. Cain prostrated himself on the ground, tears streaming down his face. I was wrong about everything. I didn't know you were. I didn't know. You didn't know what? I looked down at him. That I wasn't an ordinary Omega? That I had this bloodline. So, my voice was pure ice. Does a woman have to be a queen to deserve your respect, Cain? Cain had no answer. 10 years, Cain. I continued. For 10 years you never truly saw me. In your eyes I was just a tool. A peace offering. Now that you see what I really am, you're scared. You regret it. I sneered. But that changes nothing. He felt the scar where their mate bond had been broken sear in his chest, scorched by a light far stronger, far more blinding than his own had ever been. That light was the proof of her soul now bound to another, and it was the final, most brutal declaration that his ownership was over forever. Ilara. Cain shot to his feet, a wild look in his eyes. You are mine. You will always be mine. He charged at me, but empowered by our new bond, Drake was more than Cain's match. He slammed Cain to the ground, the fight over before it began. Drake's voice was ice. She was never yours to begin with. Cain's body convulsed as if struck by lightning before he collapsed. He fell to one knee, clutching his chest, his eyes a bottomless pit of regret and agony. Ilara, his voice was barely a whisper. I looked at him, feeling nothing. 10 years of pain. 77 betrayals. It was finally over. The smoke of battle cleared. Moonlight washed over the land again. Drake and I stood on the altar, bathed in silver light. Every wolf knelt, paying homage to their new queen. But one figure was trying to slip away into the forest. Fiona. She thought no one would notice her in the midst of the shock. She was wrong. I had no intention of dirtying my own hands. I glanced at Drake. He knew what I wanted. A whip of black wind slashed through the air, cutting off Fiona's escape and sending her sprawling to the ground. Since you're here, my voice cut through the night air, cold and clear. Why the rush to leave? Fiona scrambled to her feet, trembling like a leaf. Her eyes darted around at the circle of wolves closing in, pure primal terror etched on her face. She searched wildly, her gaze finally landing on the hollowed-out figure of Cain, still on his knees. Like a drowning woman grasping for a log, she crawled and scrambled over to him. Cain, save me. That monster, she's going to kill me. Fiona collapsed at Cain's feet. With a calculated rip, she tore her collar open, revealing the dark red mark on her collarbone as tears welled up on cue. Look, This is the mark you gave me. You promised you'd protect me. Cain slowly lifted his head. His gaze was vacant as it landed on the mark. Maybe that trick would have worked before. But now in his bloodshot eyes, Fiona didn't see pity. She saw a chilling, terrifying scrutiny. His hand shot out, clamping around her jaw with a grip that threatened to shatter bone. You're a fast runner, Fiona. Cain's voice was a raw, bone-chilling rasp. Fiona froze. What? That battle was chaos, he snarled. Elite warriors were torn to shreds. So tell me, how does a fragile patient, one who claims she might have a mental breakdown, at any moment manage to weave through a field of dying wolves and clashing steel without a single scratch? The color drained from Fiona's face. Her eyes flickered away. I was so scared it unlocked my potential. Potential? Cain's laugh was pure, guttural rage. He jabbed a finger at the mark on her collarbone. And this? Painting this on every single day with phantom leaf? Is that your potential, too? He scraped his thumb hard across the mark. The vibrant mate mark, smeared into nothing but a cheap, red dye under his fingers. The irony of phantom leaf, he hissed, is that it requires a mind of absolute stability to apply. Someone whose power is truly unstable could never paint a perfect shape like this day after day. Cain stared at the red stain on his fingertips as if it were poison. Every lie, every manipulation he had so willingly swallowed, now came rushing back, choking him. Alara broke my medicine. That medicine was sealed in reinforced crystal. A simple fall couldn't break it. But a targeted psychic shock from a hidden enemy certainly could. Alara attacked me. We all just saw Alara's true power. If a being with that power had truly attacked you at that party, you wouldn't be on the floor. You'd be a pile of ash. I was such a fool. Cain staggered to his feet. His alpha power was a fraction of what it was, but what remained was pulsing with destructive fury. You were strong enough to create a psychic barrier at the party, strong enough to shatter that crystal, strong enough to escape a battle unscathed. He grabbed a fistful of her hair, yanking her head back and dragging her up like a rag doll. This was never a fragile patient. This is a viper. And I threw away a true goddess for a parasite like her. No. Cain, let me explain. Fiona shrieked, clawing at his hand. Explain what? Explain how you used my guilt to play me like a fool for 10 years. Slap. The sound cracked through the silence. Cain slapped her so hard her lips split, blood welling instantly. Take a good look. Cain roared at the pack, though it felt like he was screaming at his own soul. Look at the delicate flower you all coddled. See? The lie you all chose to believe. Fiona struggled desperately. Cain, you're crazy. I'm your sister. Sister. Cain sneered. Tell them. Tell them how you framed Alara. Tell them. I didn't do anything. Cain slapped her across the face. The force sent her sprawling. Still lying. Cain grabbed her by the collar and hauled her to her feet. 10 years. For 10 years, you stood by and watched me hurt her. You manipulated me. You made me destroy my only chance to be king. Cain, Fiona was still trying to argue. She attacked me first. She was jealous of our relationship. Relationship? Cain's laugh was full of despair. You think I love you? Fiona froze. I never loved you. Cain's voice was terrifyingly cold. I just felt guilty. When I took you in, you were so small, so pathetic. I thought I owed you. But now I understand. He let her go, and she crumpled to the ground. I don't owe you anything. You ruined my life. Cain turned to the crowd, his voice echoing through the valley. I, Alpha Cain, declare in the sight of the moon goddess. Fiona is no longer a member of this pack. No, Fiona shrieked. You can't do this. I'm your sister. You are not. Cain's roar shook the ground. You are a parasite. A monster made of lies. He continued his declaration. Fiona is hereby stripped of all privileges within this pack. Her status of protection is revoked. From this day forward, she is no longer under this pack's protection. Everyone knew what this meant. A lone wolf without a pack wouldn't survive 3 days in the wild. Cain, you're insane. Fiona scrambled to grab his leg. Without me, you're nothing. I was the one who handled all the pack politics for you. I was the one who stayed with you every night. Those pack politics? Cain kicked her away. That was Alara's job. You stole her duties and have the gall to say you were helping me. And those nights his voice was filled with disgust. Every time I touched you, it felt like a betrayal. I had to close my eyes and pretend you were her just to get through it. Fiona's face was ashen. Impossible, you said you loved me, you said I was your treasure. That was guilt. Cain roared. I thought you actually needed protecting. I didn't know you were a venomous snake. He turned to look at Drake and me in the distance, his eyes filled with pain. And I am the one who pushed away the only person who ever truly loved me. Seeing that all was lost, Fiona's mask finally shattered. She began to laugh, a wild, unhinged sound. Ha ha, love. She got to her feet, her eyes pure poison. Cain, do you really think you know what love is? You only saw her power, and now you're trying to make excuses for yourself. The words stabbed Cain in the heart. Shut up. I won't. Fiona shrieked. You don't love her, and she sure as hell doesn't love you. She and Drake have been fooling around for ages. Where do you think she got that power from? Drake gave it to her. Enough. Cain punched her. Fiona went limp and passed out. Drag her away, he ordered the guards. Throw her over the border. I don't care if she lives or dies. As the guards dragged her away, Fiona suddenly came to, screaming at Cain's back. You were the blind one. You chose to believe my lies. You chose to ignore her pain. It was always your choice. You chose to believe my tears. You chose to ignore her pain. And now that you've lost her, you need someone to blame? You're not a monster, Cain. You're just a coward. Her voice faded into the forest, echoing. Cain stood frozen, his whole body shaking. Yes, she was right. It was all his choice. After Fiona was dragged away, a strange quiet fell over the battlefield. All the wolves remained on their knees, awaiting their new queen's command. I looked around and saw only chaos. Warriors from two packs, eyeing each other with hostility. Wounded wolves lying in pools of blood. Scouts from other packs, watching from the shadows. Drake, I said to my mate. Summon representatives from all the packs. It's time to end this chaos. 3 days later, the alphas and elders of every major pack gathered in the great hall of the Nightfall Castle. 12 packs, over 30 alphas, all present. They looked at me with a mixture of awe, fear, and doubt. Alara, the old alpha of the Bloodfang pack, spoke first. We have heard what happened on the night of the blood moon. Your power is undeniable, but what? But what gives you the right to rule us? Murmurs filled the hall. It was true. Great power did not equal the right to rule. I stood up and walked to the center of the hall. Bring me the ancient codex of the wolf clans. A massive, heavy book was brought forward. It was the oldest law book of our people, written in a language few could still read. But I could. Chapter 1, Article 3. I opened the book and began to read. When the blood of the moon awakens, and the chosen daughter descends, she will unite all packs and establish a new order. Chapter 5, Article 12. The Moon Queen holds absolute dominion. All alphas must bow to her. The old alphas looked at each other. The laws existed, but they were so ancient they had been all but forgotten. The codex says what it says, I said, closing the book. But I will not force anyone to obey. Then what do you want? Another alpha asked. I want a new order, I said, looking at them all. A fairer world. I walked to a large slate board and picked up a piece of chalk. This is the current pack hierarchy. I drew a pyramid. Alphas at the top, betas in the middle, omegas at the bottom. Omegas have no choice, no voice, not even the right to refuse a mating. I turned to face them. Is that fair? It is nature, someone retorted. Omegas are born to submit. Nature? I countered. Then explain me. Explain why the goddess chose a supposed omega for this power. Are you telling me the goddess made a mistake? No one could answer. As of today, I am abolishing the forced submission system. I drew a line through the pyramid. Omegas will have the right to choose their own mates. They will have the right to refuse any unwanted union. Absurd. The Bloodfang Alpha stood up. Without the hierarchy, the packs will fall into chaos. Chaos. I looked at him. Then why was I able to make two enemy packs fight side by side? Why is everyone willing to follow my command? Because of your strength? Because of respect, I corrected him. I respect the value of every wolf, regardless of their rank. I turned back to the crowd. One more thing. I took a small vial from my robes, the antidote to wolfsbane. Everyone froze. Impossible. An elder gasped. Wolfsbane has no cure. It didn't before. It does now. I placed the vial on the table. Using the power of my bloodline, I have created a perfect antidote. From now on, no wolf will ever have to die from wolfsbane again. The hall was silent. Wolfsbane had always been the scourge of our people, claiming countless strong warriors. And now there was a cure? You really did it? The old alpha's voice trembled. Drake is the living proof, I said, glancing at my mate. He was hit with a lethal dose, and he's still here. All eyes turned to Drake. He did look stronger than ever, with no trace of having been poisoned. I will provide the formula for the antidote freely, I continued. On one condition. What condition? Accept the new order. Treat every wolf as an equal. A long silence. Finally, the old alpha of the Bloodfang pack stood up. He slowly knelt and bowed his head to me. I, Marcus, alpha of the Bloodfang pack, pledge my loyalty to Alara, the Moon Queen. Where one went, the others followed. One by one, all the alphas knelt. We pledge our loyalty to the Moon Queen. We ask that you lead us as the queen of all packs. Please save our people. I looked at the once proud alphas kneeling before me. A storm of emotions in my heart. Power. Real power. Not gained through fear, but earned through respect and strength. I turned to Drake. He was kneeling too, but his eyes held no awe, only deep love and pride. Drake, I asked, my voice calm and clear in the great hall. Are you willing for your mate to become the queen of all? Drake rose slowly and walked toward me under the gaze of every wolf in the hall. He stopped in front of me, and then he dropped to one knee. I, Drake, alpha of the Nightfall pack, offer you everything I am. He looked up, his eyes burning with absolute devotion. My strength, my life, and my soul. You are my queen, my mate, and my faith. Wherever you go, I will be your sharpest claw and your strongest shield. He took a small box from his pocket. I had this made for you. He opened it. Inside lay a ring. Not just any ring. It was forged from the purest moonstone, glowing with a holy silver light. The ring of eternal mates, he said softly. Only true soulmates can wear it. He took out the ring and carefully slid it onto my finger. It resonated with my bloodline, flaring with silver light. A sense of completeness I had never felt before washed over me. I accept, I said, turning to the kneeling alphas. I accept the title of Moon Queen. A roar of applause filled the hall. A month later, the coronation. The entire werewolf world was in attendance. Thousands of wolves gathered at the sacred moon temple to witness this historic moment. I wore a gown of silver, the moon crown on my head, and walked slowly toward the throne. Every step had meaning. Every step heralded a new age. Below the dais sat the representatives of the great packs. I saw many familiar faces, and one I didn't expect. Cain. He sat in the very back row, a symbol of his pack's new, diminished status. Our eyes met across the hall. His were stripped of their old pride and arrogance. All that was left was humble reverence. Just like I used to look at him, 10 years ago. The moment the high priestess placed the crown on my head, the temple erupted in cheers. Long live the Moon Queen. Long live Queen Alara. After the ceremony, the pack representatives lined up to pay their respects. Cain was the last. He walked up to me and bowed deeply. Congratulations, Your Majesty, he said, his voice quiet, filled with awe. May your reign be eternal. Thank you, I replied calmly. He looked up. The man who once looked down on me could now only look up. If in another life, he started. There are no other lives, Cain. I cut him off, my voice final. You had your chance. You wasted it. He finally disappeared into the crowd. That night, at the celebration feast, the temple was alive with light and music. Wolves danced and sang, celebrating the birth of their new queen. Drake and I stood on a balcony, looking down at it all. Any regrets? Drake asked. Being queen means more responsibility. No regrets. I took his hand. This is my destiny. Besides, I turned to him and smiled. I have you. Drake pulled me close, his lips near my ear. You were always meant to be a queen. And I, he kissed my forehead, was always meant to be the man strong enough to stand beside you and kneel before you. The music swelled. Drake held out his hand. May I have this dance, Your Majesty? Of course, my alpha. We danced under the moonlight, like a prince and princess from a fairy tale. But this wasn't a fairy tale. This was real. A once trampled Omega, transformed into a queen who ruled all. An alpha who had waited 15 years, finally with his true love. When the music ended, Drake kissed me deeply. The applause thundered around us. A new era had begun. My era. He met my gaze, his eyes full of fire and devotion. My queen. I smiled, raising his chin. My king.